Hi, everyone. My name is Les Velez, and I welcome you to the OPUS interview series. OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission, simply put, is to help people having paranormal experiences. I'm the co-founder and chairman, and for more information about OPUS, please go to our website at opusnetwork.org. I am very excited and honored to have a friend, a colleague, and an OPUS advisory board member, Linda Moulton Howe, with me today. Linda, thank you so much for being here with me.
Well, thank you, Les, and thank you for the work that OPUS does. This planet is at that revolutionary cracking stage. It's almost now irrelevant whether the governments open up officially that we're not alone in the universe. It's the huge interaction that is coming from people all over the planet now that I certainly see is completely different than even 5 years ago. And that's why OPUS and the work that is being done, trying to help people who have had some sort of high strangeness in their life, and they want to know, are they dealing with an extraterrestrial biological entity from someplace else in the universe? Are they working with something that is from another dimension, quite literally? Physicists today, more and more papers are coming all the time that we're in a multi-dimensional, let's say, grand cosmos, of which our universe is only one. And all this is happening, Les, before the governments of this planet, who have had control for 5,000 or more years, finally level with the human family that we're not alone. And think of the people who, if they had been told this long ago, the Earth's evolution may have been much healthier. And today, the people who are traumatized and seeking help, you guys are the only people, and Kathleen Martin, there are not many who are trying to organize around helping people understand and not be afraid. And I know if I am a reporter and I get on average 100 requests every single month for some kind of help, and that's one person on a planet of 7.8 billion. What is the number out there of people who are living with all of this inside? So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you very much, Linda, for that. And, you sent me a quote about a week ago by Buddha, and it really resonated with me. But also, it really shows something about you. And the quote goes as follows: 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Yes.
And you are amazing at digging for the truth. There's no question about it. I mean, the areas that you have investigated, the unexplained phenomena, crop circles, cattle mutilations, abductions, alien abductions. I mean, it's fantastic, the work that you're doing. And let me tell the listeners a little bit about your background, because some people may be on here that don't know Linda Moulton Howe, and I can't believe they don't, but just in case. So anyway, Linda is a graduate of Stanford University with a master's degree in communication. She has devoted her documentary, film, television, radio, web, writing, and reporting career to productions concerning science, medicine, the environment, and Earth mysteries. Today, she is a reporter and editor of the award-winning science, environment, and Real X-Files news website, Earthfiles.com, which contains nearly 3,000 in-depth reports with thousands of images, maps, documents, and illustrations. Linda also does a weekly Earthfiles YouTube channel broadcast that grows nationally and internationally with over 166,000 subscribers. That's phenomenal.
We broke 171,000 this week.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Oh, you're doing such a great job. In addition to her award-winning Earthfiles news website and weekly broadcasts, Linda's investigative reporting for television has received local, national and international awards, including 3 regional Emmys, a national Emmy nomination, and she was an honored producer for medical and science programming in a WCVB TV and ABC affiliate in Boston station Peabody Award. That's a very prestigious award. Other award-winning documentaries are Poison in the Wind and A Sun-Kissed Poison, which compared smog pollution in Los Angeles and Denver, and Fire in the Water, about hydrogen as an alternative energy source to fossil fuel. That particular work was honored in New York City with the 1978 National Emmy finalist for community service. As director of special projects at KMGH-TV, a CBS affiliate station in Denver, Linda received the Aviation and Space Writers Association Award for Writing Excellence in Television and the Colorado Florence Sabin Award for Outstanding Contribution to Public Health. Now, one of the things about your background, your dad was involved with aeronautics.
Yes, my dad was director of aeronautics for the state of Idaho from my age 4, and he retired like it was the late 70s. And we flew everywhere because he had to travel around the state constantly. And I think of my dad once telling me that he was in the air, there had been storms, and he had tried to do a diversion from what he was feeling in his gut was the wrong way. My father was very intuitive that way. And he took a unexpected diversion and ended up flying right into one of the power lines that was up in the mountain.
Wow.
And told us, I knew I had only a brief moment and that I was either going to die or I was going to save myself. And my dad said that this feeling overwhelmed him. Keep the power going. Try to fly off this wire. And Dad did a 360 loop in the physics of that moment. He remembered the 360. And when he was coming out of the 360, it disengaged from that wire. And the thing about it was, Dad said, it's sort of like life. Just never give up.
Oh, that's an interesting story.
That has been my philosophy inside of the most difficult subjects that any human could possibly take on. Looking back, animal mutilations and other intelligences that led to human abductions, which is what OPUS is trying to deal with. But there's not a question. We're not dealing with hypothesis. We're not dealing with speculation. This is the reality that the world has to grow up to face, that we're not alone in this universe, and that what appears to be a myriad of consciousnesses range from friendly to neutral to hostile. And those words come from remote viewers. They come from people who have worked in the Pentagon. This is not a universe without the dangers, just like my dad encountered. And he kept the energy going and flew off of that wire. And somehow I feel it's always been a metaphor. You don't give up, and that we are babies, and the babies that we have been kept on this planet, we deserve all of the truth. And with all of the truth, even if it involves the invisible in our souls, I swear, my dad taught me, the more you always learn in life and the more you do not give up, the stronger you become, not weaker. And we need the whole planet to get stronger.
Yeah, and more educated and more aware of what the heck is going on. And your program is doing just that. I mean, the Earthfiles show is phenomenal. And the series that you just finished up last night with Corso was really great. I met Corso at the 50th anniversary of Roswell. And I had an opportunity to talk to him. And I said to him, why would you come out with this? Here's your background, an illustrious background, working with Eisenhower, and now you're coming out with all this information. He says, our children, our grandchildren need to know. They need to know.
And he felt that.
I get cold chills every time I tell that story.
It's true. I thought he was one of the most decent human beings I have ever met. I loved Colonel Corso, and we had discussions on the phone, and I was with him twice. But I always felt this is what America as a metaphor was. The General Trudeau and General Eisenhower and Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso, that our military leaders, once upon a time, they were gifted with and they were promoted because they were honest, frank. Yes, they could keep non-disclosures, but they always were aware of the nation that they were military representatives in, and they actually cared. Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso cared that you and I and children and everybody would know what he knew. And he, at that end, when you read The Day After Roswell, I'm always struck, I've gone through it 3 times. This is the truth. This is what has been hidden. And there it is with icebergs of information beneath each of the pages.
Yeah.
But if you took that one book and you read the book, the entire world would be brought up to speed that our most advanced technologies came from inside of craft that crashed in a variety of places around this planet, and that people who were in power made a decision that we were not to know. And that to me was a fundamental mistake after World War II.
You know, it's just phenomenal how all these things are coming to light, you know, seemingly in bits and pieces, but these bits and pieces now are starting to make sense. And, you know, hopefully we're going to have some more pieces come together in June with that committee releasing their report, and hopefully.
May pray that they don't back off. Pray that they don't say we need more time. Pray that they finally step up to the plate and give us some honest information.
Oh my goodness. I hope so. I hope so. I want to read a little bit more about your background though.
All right.
Okay. So Linda earned in 1981 the Chicago Film Festival Gold Award for Best Documentary, A Radioactive Water, an achievement that was recognized by the Colorado's then governor, Richard Lamb, in December of 1981. Linda's TV documentary broadcasts about environmental issues in Colorado were also honored by the Environmental Protection Agency with a Citizen Participation Award presented to her by actor environmentalist Robert Redford. That must have been something.
Of all the men, the male prototypes that I have met in my life, he will stand as the most beautiful, and I want to make it clear, physically breathtaking, up close, breathtaking. Women at the Environmental Protection Agency, where they had hallways that went past glass windows, every single inch of all of these ramps and stairs, there must have been, I don't know, 1,000 women who were up against windows watching this ceremony. And my photographer from KMGH was down in the front row to get a picture of me receiving the Environmental Protection Agency award. And they called me up, and he was shaking my hand, and his hand was very warm. You know how some people are nervous and their hands are cold. Yeah. His hand was very warm.
Mine are nervous right now. Mine are.
He was so overwhelmingly beautiful, and I use it not in a male, female, or any way except just a beautiful human being. And as he handed me this lovely award and his warm hand touched mine, he just grabbed a hold of me for one of those hugs that you will remember for the rest of your life.
I saw the picture.
The photographer got the photo, and I have it up on a wall next to. It's hard to believe. Here's the actor, the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actor who is embracing me, Redford. And next to, I put, when I was a teenager, my dad said on his state salary, he said, I know how much you want to go to college. And he said, the Lions Club does the Miss Boise, Miss Idaho, Miss America pageants. And he said, why don't you enter for scholarships? And I did, and I won Miss Boise, and I can't remember if this photograph, I think it was when I was Miss Boise before I became Miss Idaho and went to the Miss America pageant. Dwight Eisenhower was still alive and came to Boise, Idaho, and here I am in white gloves, a necklace, all fixed up with my white glove. Can you imagine? Talk about a definition of a generation that changed to wear white gloves.
Yes.
And he is shaking my white gloved hand without me knowing that I am crossing paths physically in a handshake as Miss Boise with Dwight D. Eisenhower, former general, former president of the United States, and one of the few humans who in their life and work knew everything there was to know up to his passing, meaning he was on the inside. Today, many presidents, I think, are held at bay by the same forces that Dwight Eisenhower at one point was a peer with. And then the president seized being a peer with the intelligence services as they kept growing from CIA to NSA to DIA to geospatial. Now there are 18. You read in the New York Times, there are 17. It's my understanding there are actually 18 now. And they keep proliferating without any ceremony, without anything public. We do not know what tax dollar is supporting. And if it didn't impact our ability to look at our true relationship with the universe, with other consciousness, if it didn't, then maybe it wouldn't be so egregious. But Elon Musk, 6 days ago, released, personally for me, it was the strongest, most impactful, I think it was an 8-minute, 10-minute video. And it was entitled, "We Are Out of Time." And it was up just for a day. And then it disappeared. I got to watch it, and I had put in a formal request to find out if I could get copyright permission to broadcast in my Earthfiles YouTube. I don't know what has happened, but I'm telling you, what I was watching was a human who I personally think is a genius, Elon Musk. And what he was doing, and it was not with anger, it was not with a lot of emotion. It was Elon Musk at his most level, with pictures by a photographer of capturing the soul of Earth. That's what I would say I was looking at. And Elon Musk was just very systematically going through the facts currently, from climate to our growing independence of artificial intelligence, a whole list. And when it ended, I felt like I had been in the presence of a soul X-ray. That Elon Musk, in all of his genius, trying to get to Mars, Neuralink, underground, everything that he is capable of doing, he was basically saying, humanity does not have a future if we don't stop X, Y, and Z. We do not. We will be replaced. And because it was so understated, it had even more impact. And you and I know he has been read in to the extraterrestrial biological entity, friendly, neutral, hostile. They would not be letting him take the Star Cruiser to Mars with a goal of having 1 million humans on Mars by 2050 if he had not been read into the whole program. And what makes me nervous, what is it that these 18 agencies and Elon Musk know about what is coming in the next 10 years? It seems to be close, not far away. What is it that they know? And why did he move back his 2026 launch of a Star Cruiser to Mars from 2026 originally 2 years ago to an announcement last year of, I'm going to launch in 2024? So far, all we've been seeing are the big silver canisters blowing up when they're trying to land.
Right.
Thinking, is that for some theatrical cover? That they're going to start getting people on Mars one way or the other, and that they may be using UFOs and friendly ETs, but they want to have a human face for what is going to be going on for 10 or 15 years, getting enough human population in. There is a lava tube base on Mars. It has been there since at least 1972. I have talked with a physicist who has been there 6 times. He said the whole thing about the goal to get to Mars, he said, we had ET help. That they knew how to take a big lava tube on Mars, spray it on the inside, pump in the gases that we humans have on Earth to breathe, totally contained, separated from Mars. And I think that physicist, without any question, was telling me absolutely the truth, and that Elon Musk and others know. And that's where the base would be. But they're going to go through the charade at this point. They're making it sound like they're going to go through the charade of, oh, getting there. Oh, the Star Cruiser. It made it. It made it. And they've been there. But, I'm not judging those decisions that were made to continue this contrived, artificial, totally false narrative that we've gotten since World War II up to now about what were extraterrestrial craft in the skies in World War II. Hitler said that he was allied with ETs from Aldebaran. That was in the press and in books. And when it was December 1999, I think it was one of the most impactful sentences ever said to me by anyone on the planet. A man from the World Bank came to me, and I think it was around November or October of 1999. And he said, I have read all your books. I have viewed all your documentaries. I have been in the audience at several of your conferences. And he said, there's somebody that I want you to meet. And he gave me all of his background, and I was able to check it out. And he said, we would like to aim for a meeting. It took a month and a half or so to get this meeting put together. And all 3 of us had to travel. And the man that had asked to meet me and who I really wanted to meet was described as being an analyst about extraterrestrial biological entities for the Defense Intelligence Agency and was retiring. And he was seeking me out through the man who worked for the World Bank. So all 3 of us meet at a prearranged place that essentially the DIA analyst had said, he had said, it can't be X, Y, and Z. Off limits simply because of juxtaposition close to places that he knew. It had to be someplace that he felt he would not be recognized.
Right.
And as he's the one who guided us to where we would sit for this meeting. And the only thing I can say right now is imagine a very busy seaport. And imagine on a Sunday what the sound is like if you have large ships, small ships, a mixture, the white noise that is near a very active port. And as we sat down to the place that this man knew he was taking, he said, quote unquote, he looked up at the sky, he said, I do not think our satellites can penetrate this white noise.
Interesting.
I have talked about that sentence with other people, and they have said, our satellites can listen to any conversation that is in a normal sidewalk, backyard, it doesn't matter. The level of being able to spy on discussions, conversations through windows, through 5 stories now, it's incredible, and most people aren't aware. So that sentence at the beginning of this astounding 7-hour meeting, in some ways, set the stage. This man knows what he's talking about, and what he shared with me, if I boiled it all down, Linda, my job was to monitor and analyze the conflict and competition of 3 extraterrestrial biological civilizations that have been terraforming and genetically manipulating and experimenting on this planet for at least 270 million years, and our government has proof. And I said, sir, proof of 270 million years of 3 civilizations on this planet? He said, that's right. What is the proof? And he looked at me, just eye stare. Linda, if I told you, it would be dangerous for you and for me. Unless you can think about that. I've thought about it a lot. I've studied the history of the planet in terms of getting to the Permian, which is in generally that area. We know the dinosaurs were taken out. I believe it has something to do with a different truth, a different set of facts. The dinosaurs and essentially the Permian extinction may have had an outer space cause.
Component to it.
Because of the 3 competing civilizations on Earth.
Are those the ones that I think you mentioned in a show that you did about the heptaloids and the trontoloids and the archeloids?
That's for Ronald Reagan. A lot of people are not aware. I have tried at every conference where I was dealing with specifically having to do with the non-humans. At Earthfiles, you can go to Earthfiles and type in Reagan. You can type in Camp David, and you will come up with a series that I did. And here is, as far as I know, absolute truth. It started in the controversial SERPO. It releases over 5 years, SERPO, usually spelled all caps, SERPO. The derivative explanation on that word is supposed to be that it sounds close to what the extraterrestrials call a specific planet around one of 2 binary stars labeled Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 that are 37 to 38 light years from Earth. That is important because 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, the first publicized human abduction with extraterrestrials. Betty Hill did a star map from what she remembered of a holographic 3D projection. amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish decided that she would try to take the two-dimensional paper design that Betty Hill had done and extrapolate it into a 3D view of our end of this particular part of the universe. In 1961, it was not known that Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 were a binary star system with two solar systems. That was not known. Betty Hill had the idea that somehow the two from the download from what looked sort of like a gray, but wearing a cap and wearing something like almost like a military top, didn't fit into the classic little grays or middle-sized grays or tall grays, but definitely they had black lenses on. But apparently there are all kinds of grays, just like there are many, many types of humans. And that the Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 was then the common ground between Betty and Barney Hill. And today we know a lot more. And help me, I've had a thought explosion that I was headed toward. What was it you asked me?
No, the three races, the heptaloids and the
Reagan,
yeah, Reagan.
Yeah, but I got way out there in Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, but they're so relevant. Okay, now we're back to Camp David and Reagan. Why it's important to look back to 1961 is that is the first baseline of what was presented to the world public of a black man, a white woman taken by grays with lenses that Betty sketched so well. And jump to Reagan was taken to Camp David March 6th to 8th, 1981. He had been inaugurated and he had been president only since that January. So now it's March 6th to 8th. His self-appointed CIA director led the meeting at Camp David. They were introduced in the transcript as numbers, like CIA 1 or DIA 2 or that, no names. And for 2 days, Ronald Reagan allegedly was given briefings by each of the experts from the intel agencies on the various pieces of information. And the most startling for people who wouldn't know anything, and even for those of us who have been exposed to this information before coming through the abductees, I had been, but most people had not, was that there were 5 basic ET groups that our government was identifying that they knew, and that there were archeloids. The archeloids were described as being a creation, a genetic manipulation of life forms by the Greys to be, they made them here for a while, and the archeloids sound like the Sumerians or the Anunnaki. And then the Greys, with what sounds like godlike powers, move those archeloids to their own planet. I believe it's in the Lyra constellation. And that the insights that the DIA gave me in 1999, what abductees had been giving me in tremendous depth from 92 on, came together for me as I'm reading what they were trying to present to Ronald Reagan, that there are species of what you might call progenitor extraterrestrial civilizations that move through the universe, mixing and matching at the atomic and the molecular level, making life, making artificial, manipulating, terraforming planets that extends their territorial control in certain places as long as what they make dominates that particular planet. The domination by X consciousness goes back to gray progenitor. It could be the tall blondes have a stake in another planet. The reptilian humanoids can have a stake in another. But what has been apparently extremely unusual about Earth? The DIA guy, current whistleblowers say, these three competing major civilizations that are defined as being the grays that are artificial intelligence and then some organic with a huge myriad of types. What Elon Musk is afraid is going to happen to us has already happened to the grays. The tall Nordics that can come with black hair, red hair, blonde hair, white hair. They are tall, thin, male and female identifiable. Then the huge, dominating, physical reptilians. Those are the three main circles that the DIA guy talked about. This is what comes up in some of the abductions. The abductees get this sense that there are three major rivals. And as the DIA guy told me, he said, this planet is considered to be a laboratory, that it is looked at as a laboratory, and that these three competing species for 270 million years have competed with each other on this planet, and that the dinosaurs are one of the experiments.
You know,
what happened to the dinosaurs?
Yeah, you know, I always wondered about the such variety we have on this planet, and from the littlest microbe all the way up to, you know, the blue whale. Somebody, you know, some people call it the creator or God, but somebody has an interesting sense of humor, especially when you talk about the octopus and some other creatures along with that are so unusual. So yeah, I could see that as being a laboratory. Let's try this and see what happens.
That's right. And right now, Les, I'm going to say something because I think that time is growing short, exactly like Elon Musk's title that has disappeared. Time has run out. That this is right now between 2020 and 2030. This is perhaps the single most pivotal moment in this planet going back at least 2,000 years or longer, right now. And in 2014, at a conference, a physicist, I've seen his passes. He showed me. You're not supposed to do that, but he did show me which labs he has access to, even buildings in Washington. And he said, I'm using this conference as cover. He said, and it was true, the physical matter world conferences, the best part of them often was after you get through speaking and you go down into a mob that wants to talk with you, that somebody leans forward and says, I need to talk with you about, that happened half a dozen times in my matter world conference career. And you look for those moments. And this was one in 2014 with the deepest, most ramifying content that anybody has ever said to me. And he was interested in talking to me because of bismuth, magnesium, zinc, that we, without question, it is an atomic and molecularly arranged, layered metal that it will neutralize gravity for ETs that know how to make it work on craft. That's what it is. And I was doing a presentation, and that's what he came up after. He told me much about bismuth, magnesium, zinc. He talked to me about the technology that he worked on 4 layers deep at Area 51 S4, how you had to have a retina and a thumb and something else at every one of the floors. If you had the ability to be in S4 Area 51, you did not have an ability to go on any of the elevators down unless you have to have a completely different ID for layer 1. And the elevator would only go down 1 floor. Then you have to get off. Submachine gun guards every layer. Then you have to have another layer. He said it was arduous, just having to keep all of the different cards for layers and making it all neat, and how you would not screw up on any one of those layers. And the second layer, you get through that security, you go to layer 3. You have to do layer 3 security. Then you go down to layer 4. You don't get out of the layer 4 elevator until you've passed the security, all 4 levels, and then you can be down at the lab, which is where he was. And he said, this is 2014. Remember, we're at 2021. So we're talking about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I would like you to know something. And he became friendly, like you would tell a friend, I want you to know something. Between 2020 and 2030, there's going to be a large population reduction on this planet. And one of the methods that we studied in the S4 facility in the 70s, in the 1970s, Linda, it is our understanding that the black hole that exists at the center of the Milky Way galaxy goes through cyclic bursts. I don't mean light. I don't mean matter. They cannot escape the black hole, but the black hole can burp. Why we know that? Probably ETs. He said between 2020 and 2030, from everything we understand, it's going to happen again. And he said, what do you think would happen if you have energy moving at or above the speed of light and it hits our solar system?
Not good.
What happens if the Earth, like hitting a wall, jerks for half a second? What do you think would happen? And I remember I was listening to him so intently.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this picture in my mind when he asked that question. I can still remember it. I could still feel like I was seeing it. I said, we're 2/3 water. If you jerk the Earth, the inertial forces on water, they would have to catch up. And he said, bingo. And he said, our computers, we ran program after program trying to use different intensities of what this burp could be. And he said, we never got less than 1,000 feet of the Pacific Ocean rising. Now get this. Start thinking about this, because I don't think of this as frightening people anymore. I think of this, we deserve to know what ETs are telling the governments that could be coming, because it might affect things we want to do with people, our lives. He said, think of looking out at the Pacific Ocean if you're standing at Santa Monica. A tsunami are waves. He said, don't think waves. He said, we're talking about the entire Pacific Ocean rising up 1,000 feet before it does this. Well, he explained from the computer stuff that they did back then in 1970s, he's telling me in 2014. He said, we always ended up with the tops of the Sierra Nevadas as islands. The Rocky Mountains, anything above 5,500 feet stays above water. The Gulf goes up the middle of the country, and the St. Lawrence River and the Gulf connects through the water, the width of the water in the middle of the United States varied depending more than it did on the coast.
It doesn't sound like I would be successful living in Texas as I am.
No, and on the East Coast, that everything would be gone up to the Appalachians, and the very tip tops of the Appalachians would be islands like, okay. Now, when you hear that for the first time, I think everybody's reaction is, oh, it's just not, no, no. You just, something in you just goes, no.
Right.
But now it is 2021. There are whispers coming in governmental, let's just say, from governmental points of view, that something global is going to happen between now and 2030. And why would there be all of this concern to get Elon Musk to Mars with humans, and that they've moved back that launch date to 2024, and that it's possible that it will not even be the Star Cruiser. Like I said, it may be theatrical cover. And the thing about it is that physicist told me other things that were markers. And I think if this is information that has come from the extraterrestrial biological entity world, that there is yet another layer to show how difficult all this is, and that the last 42 years of my trying to get to the bottom of all this, understand the facts and report the truth, this is how difficult it is. Because there is yet another layer. And the other layer that is now being discussed is, would the leadership of the United States from World War II to now have been told theatrical, devastating information to be kept secret in order to have an impact on the government levels that the ETs knew were never telling humans the truth? It's like a chess game. It's like a multi-layered chess game. And that's why that video that Elon Musk, there's no more time. It was so extraordinary. Why did it come for one day and disappear?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Why are signals coming through now, bits and bits, that the government doesn't even want to acknowledge the COVID bill request of the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence to tell the congressional representatives and the American public, that's what it says in the bill, about two categories: advanced aerial threat, YTHREAT, linked to foreign adversaries. And I don't think they mean China, North Korea, or Russia.
Right.
So is the stage being set up to introduce something related to the conflict of these three competing extraterrestrial groups. And then, depending upon what is laid out, is that then going to set the next hallway to get to the room where the discussions will begin? Who goes to Mars? And why?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, Linda, you and I are of the age probably that they might just leave us behind.
Well,
Unfortunately.
yeah, I'm sure.
You know, one of the things I wanted to
Only geniuses.
one thing I wanted to mention is the fact, you talk about, are the aliens telling us the truth? And or if they're not, what effect is it having?
Right.
All the people in the OPUS online support group talk about, are the aliens telling us the truth? Are they in fact, trying to have something come out of whatever they're telling us? So what's their agenda is the bottom line, and that goes back to what you're saying is the fact that these three competing groups, what's their agenda? Each one is different, I think.
Yes. And Les, do you all now at MUFON working in OPUS, do you get letters that come about people having repeating dreams about deep water flooding where they live, or they have dreams about seeing mountains going underwater? I probably now have 200 such letters that have come to me just in about a 12-month span.
Interesting.
And my entire reason for being is not to scare anybody. I don't buy into fear. I feel that we need to understand. We need to understand the whole truth. If an event like this is in our future, which would be a Noah's flood, that has been in biblical history for how long? Did it really happen? Is this cyclic? Is it tied into the black hole? If they told everybody, would that help people to make decisions in their life in a different way? Would it then be the explanation for why we needed to go to the red, dusty, difficult Mars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
It would be a different planet. Not everything would be done just to have more and more money, which seems to be the only thing driving the planet now in the power brokers. So I don't think that any discussion now, and in a way I felt that was exactly Elon Musk was trying to say more on that video, as if he knows if there is an existential point that is upcoming in this decade, and I mean existential.
Absolutely.
We should all be in on everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, the powers that be feel that we are either not ready to understand that, or that this would cause a panic. And, I could see if you tell the people in California, well, look, between now and 2000 or 2030, there's going to be 1,000-foot wall of water that's going to wash over you. I mean, I think that would cause some panic.
Well, everybody might start moving in the United States. We can't.
Well, that's why I moved from California to Texas. But now what you're saying is I'm not even safe in Texas.
Well, where are you in Texas again?
North of Dallas. North of Dallas.
What is the altitude there?
Altitude, it's not high. I think it's under 1,000 feet.
Well, okay, that opens up another big, sometimes considered off-limits subject. But if the truth is that we have souls, and we are not treating those souls as a Valentine card or something that's on an Easter card, but they're real, and they are the perpetual, powerful machine of our existence in infinity, is the way it's been described. Then this particular epoch on Earth would be something that our souls wanted to experience. That is the point of view from we'll call it the large box of a universe that is inside of a divine field, and that the powers and forces of the evolution of souls are what drive the evolution of life and consciousness, and everything is those souls.
We're here to learn something. We're here to learn.
Yeah, and that if you know that you're in an existential era, and how would it, I've been thinking about this a lot. The things that you love, you want to love more. The things that you want to know about, like time itself, it isn't, I feel like I am trying to absorb as much as I possibly can to help other people without fear. I ask for that ability every single day. Because if the power brokers of this planet, just as power brokers going back to the Anunnaki and the Sumerian, they've never, ever given the general populations the truth.
True.
But why would the gray ones, the tall blondes, the reptilians, why would they compete over this magnificent laboratory Earth if there wasn't something here that they want? And I don't think their wants would boil down just to gold.
You know, the one thing that is a constant subject with the abductees after they've had an experience is the fact that they're told we need to be better to the planet. You know, we need to take care of it. We need to not pollute it. We need to be better to one another. We need to love one another. These are constant themes that come up. And in that regard, I'm totally with the aliens on that. You know, so I don't believe they're lying to us when they're telling us things like that. And that
when they are trying to do a manipulation, and it feels like a manipulation, could be that they actually want us to survive, because I personally think there is something about the human soul that is stronger and they don't have. I personally think that the avatars of history would not have occurred and done what they did and experienced if they were not trying to teach us something about what happens at the moment of death. And if it is true that consciousness and the soul have infinite cycles, and this is just one, like a waveform we're in. And if we knew that, if we knew that it isn't the end, and that even if we are in an existential crisis because we are in a vast universe that has black holes that burn, then we should all know that.
Yeah, and not be afraid of it either.
Yeah, and say, okay, I will do the best I can up until. And then if it doesn't happen, I learned that I could feel and embrace my soul and my mind and my body and my energy and say, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep doing the best you can to help other people understand that which the power brokers want to keep from us. And that it's just my conviction that truth is always the best path.
I love that quote by Buddha. That is great.
I keep it in front of me all the time.
You know, I want to ask you a question, and I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but You've done so many stories, so incredible stories. Is there one story out of all the things that you have done is the most significant to you?
What came into my mind's eye immediately, it's interesting to me actually, because you're asking me about my work. But what popped into my head, because I think that this was and is the single most significant thing that ever happened in my entire existence. And I've been, this is my 79th revolution around the sun. The number doesn't mean much to me. I don't find that anything much changes, but I've been around 79 times in this life now. And that's why when I say this, this is what just flooded my mind as I heard your question. When I was 21 and I was getting ready for the Miss America pageant, where we started about my dad saying, why don't you enter these contests?
That was quite a revelation, by the way. The Miss America, I was reading the bio and I'm going, huh? And you're still lovely, absolutely lovely.
Thank you. 1963. And it was that summer. And I'd asked Dad if he would fly as director of aeronautics and drop my brother, me, and a cousin off up in Johnson Creek, which is a tributary of the Salmon River in Idaho. Beautiful, rough, gorgeous country. And Dad, as director of aeronautics, had built one of the backcountry airports. He was famous for that. And there were like nice, clean toilets and campgrounds and all that stuff that were there. And you'd be dropped off with sleeping bags and you've got a perfect place. And my brother fished and we had fresh fish every night and all of that. And my goal was, I wanted my body, skin, muscle to be as tight as possible for Atlantic City, because it's very scary, the idea of walking in a swimsuit for 65 feet with 35,000 people in the convention center. And I wanted to at least myself a chance to be as absolutely creaseless as possible. So there was a ritual. And that was, we'd get up in the morning, I would do my first run, and I probably was going up at least half a mile. I was probably going up a 2,000 foot, but it wasn't mountain rock. It was the lower hills that then went into what would be the Sawtooths and the mountains. And I had a path, and I would run up to the top and then come down, sometimes turn around and go back up and then come down, run around the airstrip, which was great because the grass was always mowed. And then my brother and my cousin would do things. And then I'd come back and I'd do that 3 times, morning, middle day, and at night. Just like an athlete preparing for something.
Sure.
And this, when this happened, we'd probably been there for a full week. And the reason why I say that is when you do something like getting your body ready to do something and you're going through the same motions and you're in a program every day, your mind begins to go off into all sorts of things. So you don't even feel yourself even. And all I can remember at the very first seconds is that I had reached to the top of where I would always look out in the mountain and then I would come back. So that's where I had gone. But I became aware as I was approaching the top that off to the left, and that's what I mean, I was in some kind of internal thing, like when you are sort of pulled by something to become aware, because otherwise I would have gone like this, done a loop, and come right back down. Something was pulling my attention off to my left as I got to the top. And I was looking at these orange beams, the color of a ripe orange and maybe a little bit of red. And they were coming down through the ponderosas. There were a lot of ponderosas up there. And it was like, at that moment, I had never seen light before. I don't know how else to explain. It was like I went through something, and I'm now like a novice looking at light.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so beautiful that instead of doing my normal loop, I started to walk toward these orange beams. And I'm in that fast mode coming up a hill. But when I veer off to go to the light, everything started doing this.
Slow motion.
Famous in literature that when you transition into, whether you want to call it another dimension, another level of consciousness, it's just like this. It's like the camera went to 96 frames a second. And I can still see, as I talk to you now, vividly, I'm aiming for those orange beams that are coming down through the ponderosa. I'm going to have to enter into the ponderosa to get to where these orange beams are. And I think I get there. I've always had this feeling that I somehow touch or I do something with one of those orange beams. But just like that, if that's what I'm doing, if I'm touching the orange beam, it's just, and I'm at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
It really is missing time, missing frames. And when I realize that I'm at the bottom of the hill, I remember I wasn't afraid. I wasn't panicked. It was more, what? Like, I'm trying to understand what is happening. And that is when the very first thing that just hit me, I'm seeing like I've never seen before. The hill that I had just came down from, I could see rivulets of energy that had color. And I thought of Van Gogh, The Starry Night.
Yeah.
He was my favorite painter. And I knew that his work well. And it's like I am now looking at the hill the way he drew or painted at the end, the Starry Night with the energy. And then I remember turning and down further, way like about a 3/4 of a mile away. I'm looking down on my brother and my cousin, and I can see them like, that's real life. But as I did that, it was in June, and there were all of these mountain flowers that were kind of peridot blue, and they were thousands of them. And one of them, as I had turned from the hill, it was sparking. And it was an orchid in white light sparking out so that the petals were turning from petals into this sparking light. At that moment, it was a feeling that maybe that is what we all need all the time in life. When you transition from one level of reality to something else, that your first reaction is to resist the transition. And I had this feeling at that moment, seeing the flower turn into this pulsing light, and then all of the flowers turned into this pulsing light. I tried to run. I tried to run to make everything come back to normal. And I maybe went 15 or 20 steps. And then it was like feeling like I was embraced. I'm not seeing anything. There's no nothing else around me, but it's something like warm jello, warm jello. I come into warm jello. And I was standing in this twilight between what I was at the top of the mountain before the orange lights and whatever is happening now. And I remember that I was staring and I could see a few of the twilight, what they call at the Salmon River, you will see some stars that come right along the tops of the mountains because the sun so quickly goes down behind. And they were flashing just like the flower. And then that embrace of the warm jello, the pressure came up under my hands. And I found myself now like an observer, not resisting, just watching. And my own hands come up in front of my face with this warm feeling of jello, holding them there. And this thought voice in my mind, you are one with the light. The light is one with you. And you are in the hands of God forever.
Amazing. Oh.
21 years old, Salmon River country. The warm jello is as meaningful as the thought voice and the lights. And then I felt a release. I had nothing to do with my hands going up or down. And when there was this, like a fade out, the warm jello is slowly going away. All of the pulsing light, the stars, the flowers, the breathing thing in the hill. It was like watching it rheostat down, like 4, 3, 2, 1. And then everything looked absolutely normal. And less from that day, that second to now, I know that pulsing light is what is in, behind, supporting the evolutionary force of everything. That's what it left me with, light. And then, what was it? 2018. That year, because of what I was working on with Spartan 1 and Spartan 2 in my Antarctica documentary, I had a lot of books that had to do with Anunnaki and symbols and things trying to get a better handle about what could be 2 miles down under Antarctica. And one of the books that I had pulled out, I had read sections, was the Nag Hammadi. And that is the translation in all languages around the world of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I had never really explored it before. And I opened up, you know how sometimes you will pick a book and you just do this because you don't have any other frame of reference and you're just getting a feel of the book, and that's what I did. And it was near the back of the Hammadi, and this is, I'm reading, and I hit these words. The thought that dwells in the light. The thought that dwells in the light. And it came, this rushing feeling that connected back to Idaho, that has connected to so many things in my life, where I have not led a safe life. I have been in many, many, many dangerous places. And even when maybe I should not have survived, I have been protected. And I felt suddenly the thought that dwells in the light. That's Idaho. That's all of it.
Sure.
every piece of matter. When the brilliant physicist wrote Bohm.
Boom.
When Bohm did the incredible book, and for some reason I'm struggling with Implicate Order, Wholeness and the Implicate Order by David Bohm. And in there is, again, one sentence: all mass is frozen light. It's the underlying thesis of the entire book, because if all mass is frozen light, you, the stars, the table, everything is light. And something gave me the gift in Idaho in 1963 when I was 21 years old to, okay.
And that really set you on your path. That really set you on your path.
Lift up the surface of the matter world you're in, and this is the truth.
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
The non-humans know this. They do.
You know, I've never personally had an experience, although a couple of people in two different times in my support groups have told me, I've seen you before. And they'd say, well, where? You know, and they'd say, well, I saw you on board the craft. I said, really? The first time somebody told me that, I kind of blew it off. But the second time, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to investigate. So I've had 3 regressions, nothing to do with aliens, but multiple past lives, and all of which have been here on Earth. So, but this goes back to the thesis about the soul, that it doesn't die and that it regenerates and regenerates and regenerates. But that's a fantastic story that you just told. Oh my God, I didn't realize that you had an experience like that.
Yes, it grounded me for the rest of my life. And once you have been through that kind of, it's revolutionary in a strange way, because you came in to the mountain this way and you leave totally with a different, but so positive. There are so many things that after a while, you begin to feel such compassion inside yourself. I've always felt it and said it's the pressure of my soul. I have, I don't know if you've had this experience. It's happened to me half a dozen times. I would be in a different place, New York City or Italy or wherever I was, and be in a car or a taxi or something, and people are moving across the street. And I'm watching my fellow human beings moving across a street, and I start to cry. And it's so spontaneous and so sudden. And I've always felt this
empathy,
deep empathy and compassion for my fellow Homo sapiens, because I think we are an abused species. Abuse comes in many ways, but what could be a bigger abuse than for us to be genetically manipulated into existence and then never told the truth. Never told the truth. Whether it is tall blondes, reptilians who were in the Garden of Eden, the myriad of grays, or something else, that mixing and matching genes on planets to create different life forms and oversee and harvest is what runs in this universe. And if we then are the creation of extraterrestrial biological entities who have been doing this for 270 million years, they are also within the thought that exists in the light. And you can't get any larger than the thought that exists in the light. Therefore, if everything is that dream of that dream, all of a sudden, it's like all of the ETs, no matter what they look like, no matter what planet they are on, even if there's an infinite number of universes, I'm light, you're light, and that fundamentally that is the bottom line truth. Mm-hmm. That the souls are recycling in that thought that dwells in the light. And if you keep that in front of you, if you keep that one paragraph in front of you, everything becomes less scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Linda.
Well, I just thought of one more thing.
Sure. Absolutely.
It was September of 2018. And I was able, one after the other, I interviewed Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose. And at the time, they two had been talking about the fact that there had been a discovery that in our brains, there are layers of microscopic tubules, tubules, and they know what their shapes are, but we're talking like you see them with a microscope. And Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose, brilliant. Stuart Hameroff is in Arizona, is a magnificent PhD in medical relation. And Roger Penrose is the genius who got the Nobel Prize recently for the work that he's done on black holes and the universe and so forth. I was almost like intimidated, but I then bring back my experience in Idaho every time I feel intimidated, and it somehow it levels everything off, and I could talk with them like I'm talking with you. And right at the beginning of the interview with Roger Penrose, I had written this question, which I can't give you literally now, but it essentially was, sir, what is your understanding of the singularity? What happened at the birth of this universe? And that soft, pleasant, British male voice. Oh no, Linda. Oh no. There was no singularity. It's just cycles upon cycles upon cycles in infinity. I'm not kidding you. Mm-hmm. Those are the, and it was like, oh my Lord, am I up to this? Oh Lord, and hang on. And he was so gentle and so kind, but so certain. I have never talked to anybody in an interview where I felt that their certainty about what's really behind the universe, what is really going on, as Roger Penrose, I swear. And I keep that whole transcript with both of them. I keep it in a special drawer. I keep the audition, I keep it all in a special place. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times. And the funny thing was, when I did those 2 interviews, I was going to do something that was, we've got this discovery of these tubules, and they think that they probably vibrate with the quantum universe, which would prove that we were quantum life forms in vibration and quantum connection with the universe. And that is true. But when I got through listening, I just ask a few questions here and there. When I got through listening to Roger Penrose, who was giving me his, Les, he was giving me his inside view of infinity. I never thought about it that way, but that's what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I came away with that. I remember when I hung up the phone and I was just sort of sitting like when you've connected with a whole different realm. And that everything he said made me feel calmer about every possible peregrination that could take place. It was like, oh, so maybe there will be mountainside floods. Well, it's happened before because his thing was, in a way, like boom, cycles upon cycles upon cycles, universes upon universes upon, and every variation of every possibility has gone on, goes on, and there is no end.
Yeah. Yeah, except I do have to end now this interview. Linda, first of all, thank you so much for, I mean, this has been absolutely enthralling for me. This is great. Fantastic. Are you, it is, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, the first time I met you in '92 at that Mufon Symposium, and all these years later, almost 30 years. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
It doesn't, when you go to time and put it in sentences the way humans, it doesn't make any sense, because I don't feel, I have never bought into birthdays as you're supposed to be married by this and divorced by then and getting ready for a funeral. And I just never have lived life that way. And to me, if you look at a revolution around the sun as something that you're gaining, that you can get stronger, that you have more energy, and because you have more knowledge. If the planet were taught that, I think we'd be a lot healthier.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think so. I agree with you 100%. Now, are you going to be doing any conferences coming up? Are you doing, I know you have some TV stuff going on and books. I think you have a new book coming out.
Well, I'm working on one.
You're working on one.
It's, when you take on your own life, I'm telling you, that's the hardest thing that could possibly.
Very good. Very good.
But
I look forward to that.
I did Conscious Life Expo in February.
Okay.
And the Zoom experience is frustrating. And now Contact in the Desert in June. I'm going to be doing 3 presentations and I think 3 panels in that. So it'll be like if we were in California live. But again, it's going to be through the digital world because of COVID.
Right.
And where we, 2019, I was on 46 airplanes. I have 46 airline tickets from 2019.
Oh my goodness.
COVID, we've done nothing. And so for the foreseeable future, this is another one of those, we'll call them variations in the timeline and Roger Penrose's cycles. There have been pandemics before and there will be pandemics after. It is horrible. And that to be free, to get on an airplane without anxiety and go someplace to lift a glass of champagne with other humans without fear is now, I think, the biggest desire
thrill
that everybody has, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
A long way to go because the variants are bad. So, but people can keep up at Earthfiles. Just go to www.earthfiles.com, and I have a conference and appearances thing that's kept up for me. And the Earthfiles YouTube channel, every Wednesday night, I am going into stuff as deeply as I can every week. It is a mental, physical challenge to do that every week. But I am finding it's moving from, oh, this is so much work, to a kind of exhilaration because we keep growing and growing in population around the world. And when people say, you've saved my life, I'm now understanding this, it gives me energy to keep going. So I am doing something I truly like doing. And the conferences in the real world will, I guess, maybe 2022.
Well, actually, I'm going to the Mufon Symposium in August. It's actually in August now.
I was invited, but I said Las
No,
Vegas in,
yeah,
in a COVID pandemic, not yet.
okay. No, because I was looking at the speakers, I didn't see your name, so I said, "Oh, she's not coming." And I was looking forward to at least buying you a cocktail.
Well, let's hope that we survive into 2022 with, if they can get the vaccination to 70%. Let's just
Yeah,
say if we could get the
right.
United States and England and places
Mhm.
70%, I think that the world would really, it would really start settling, but not yet. And we are a long way from 70%.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot of people, 20%, they say that are not thinking about even getting the shot. So that's tough. That's tough
But
to
we
try to
really
get to herd immunity.
seven.
Yeah.
Look at what's
Well,
happening
Linda,
in India. Oh,
Linda, thank you so much, for being with me today. I want to thank our listeners as well. As a nonprofit, we depend on donations, so it would be greatly appreciated that you go to our website, that's opusnetwork.org, and hit the donate button, and then hit the subscribe button on this as well. So again, Linda, thank you, thank you, thank you, and keep up the great work that you do.
thank you so much. And to Opus.
Thank you.